a lot of the pictures of lynching, a lot of our history of lynching were around people exercising political power, wanting to vote, being engaged in civic discourse. I think our county clerk has, I'm trying to be agnostic and a little apolitical, but Erin has done a really great job of sort of managing things and keeping things. And if somebody is harassing you or too close to, first of all, there are rules around how close they could be to a polling location, how all of those things. So if you are intimidated, feel afraid, feel disengaged, you can do something. But Erin has done a really good job of trying to make the process efficient and safe and secure. And it always, you're right, like even on the 19th, I think is the first day that you can kind of start that vote in person process. And there are a lot of different locations. So I guess I want to say, locally, we're so fortunate that we have good leadership and good direction.
Amen.
James, what were you going to say? I know you were getting ready to lean in.
I'm leaned in because I thought of good trouble. I thought of that and watching, as Miss Minnie said, our recent forefathers get beaten going to the polls, overt voter suppression. That tells us, as I look at this group, how much, when we break down demographics, we matter. Women matter, certain age groups matter, African American, Latino, they're coming after our votes. They're coming after, or they're saying, whatever we can do to get you to not exercise your right within a frame, and which tells me we've got to put people with integrity in the spaces. I miss John McCain. I was not a Republican. I missed him because I felt he had a lot of integrity. I felt we could disagree, fine, but do you have integrity? And I believe, and I'm going to just say that we pray and vote that we've got to get people back in spaces with integrity. Erin has been out with us with HV, neighborhood transformation. We've been in the neighborhoods just begging people and lifting them up and saying, look, you matter.
Right.
And I think coming back to the work that you're doing, the systems that are in place, it is systemic to create this level of apathy that you do not matter. I'm going to go down another path. When I think of systemic racism, I just bought a house a few months ago and I have a garden, and weeds are popping up. They look and they flower. They flower. Yeah. They look like normal stuff, but it's destroying. That's what systemic racism is like. It looks normal. It looks normal not to vote. It looks normal. A lot of things that are systemic look normal, that are destroying us as a culture and creating these spaces where all of our people of color, marginalized women, where you don't matter. That's systemic. And we've got to fight that with education, with knowledge, going into spaces, but also, I was going to say this, this COVID environment has created this opportunity where we can be virtually together. You can virtually go find out what's going on in our city today. You just got to log into a Zoom meeting or a Facebook meeting. You can virtually because my hope is that we get ignited enough to go get the information. And even if you don't understand, Karen, could you explain this to me? Ms. Meany, could you explain what this law means? What is the tax law mean? And how does that benefit me? Because I don't have enough knowledge myself. And that's our job, to have enough integrity to go, either if I don't know, I'm gonna point you to Erin, I'm gonna point you to a congressman to go get this information for you so that you are informed. Because what I tend to see people say, I don't know enough, I'm not smart. Yes, you are. And if we need to break it down to where it's understandable so that you make an informed choice of who's put in the spaces, because the judges that are sitting there now, who put them there? Who are they on your team? So now we got to fight again. And my hope is that like what we did for President Obama, we galvanized and as a force, because I don't think it was just because he was Black. I think because I feel he still has a lot of integrity. And that's what I want to see for a leader in all my spaces.
Absolutely. So I love the vote your values, and there could be to me, no disconnect. So if you believe in community and love and have a love ethic, then you, right, are going to want to make sure that all kids are good and communities are good. The other thing that Miss Minnie said was, and Miss Ann, like when you vote somebody, it's not just the end of the conversation, that we stay involved in keeping them accountable. So don't say that they're corrupt when we've disengaged, because it's our job to make sure that they remember that they are ours. And the last thing that I was going to think about what James said was, a lot of conversations are around quote unquote defunding or redirecting funding for police. And I was like, and you've highlighted, it's the if judges and state's attorney and a whole bunch of elected officials. And if we don't think about that whole system working in support, it doesn't matter, right? The mayor is the person who comes up with the funding, and a board comes up with it, right? And so if you don't think about how that whole system works together, and you just focus on that piece and you're out protesting, and you don't realize like it's 15 other decisions that you have some say over, that you have a lot of power to get involved. I'm kind of looking at the time, and I want to ask one question. I hope it doesn't take up too much time, but I think it's important. And Miss Minnie, you've highlighted it, and that's the role of sort of historical trauma, like the history, and then how that might be interrupting or showing up in the voting process. So like, what kind of pains or history beyond just sort of apathy do you think might be impacting people around not wanting to kind of get involved?
Uh, uh, I know that a couple of people have expressed to me that when you vote straight Democrat, they tend to to penalize you for that, or they know if you're a Democrat you're voting for this, if you're a Republican you voted for this. And on their jobs, it's not made easy for them to leave to vote, or to get there in time before the polls close, things like that. So it's that mental thing from way back that follows us from our history, when we were not allowed. And so now it's just embedded in us that we don't have the power. It's systemic racism. But what do we do to change the system so that it accommodates us and make us feel invited to the table to talk about what is important to us? It's okay if we are out there protesting and marching and doing those things, but there comes a time when you need to get involved in your local government in order to have a say so and make sure that everybody is invited to the table and they have a right to vote and not feel intimidated by party or this or that. It's so many things out there that we just give up. We're tired. We're frustrated. We have so many things to fight, and we just feel like we just don't have any more fight in us. But then that's where, like James said, that's where the motivation from other people come in to kind of motivate you and say, yes, you may be tired, you may be stressed, but let's not give up. We owe it to our children who are coming behind us. We owe it to the younger people to keep on going. So it's just a motivational thing. You got COVID, you got this, you're losing your jobs, you just feel like there's no hope. But there is always people. God will place the right people in your path to motivate you to do things. So we have to continue to pray. We have to continue to have that self-determination, because all along the way we have always known trauma from birth. We've always had a hard life. We've never actually had it that easy. But in spite of those obstacles and walls, people did it. So if they can do it, it's not that hard for us to do it today.
Okay. So thank you for speaking to that. All right. Anybody else have anything that they want to add around that? Because I also, James, I see you thinking.
Real quick, I'm not, because I know we're trying to run out of time. One of my, again, going back to my pastor role, one of the things, this great pastor, and Kirby and Caldwell said that as a culture, all that we've been through as African Americans is traumatic, and you deal with trauma with therapy. There's a culture, you know, we need that. So and helping people into those systems so there's systematic racism, but there are also systems to help us out in lifting people up. And I've seen people, you know, that are again, going into these neighborhoods that have been systematically beaten down. We've got to water that with the systems that are in place. Again, the work that we all do. One of my roles is also a life coach, but what I would say to, and I've said this in these neighborhoods, one of the words I love is resilience. And the thing about resilience is that you go through and you keep moving forward. You don't go backwards. So all this stuff that we're going through with COVID and everything that we've been through this year, I would say we're built for it. We're built to be strong. I mean, the things that we did, they made us stronger. They made us resilient, and that we can handle it. We just need to hold on to each other, and we need to lean into our faith. However you call God, you need to lean into that. But I strongly believe that our Lord has built us for a time like this, based upon the standing on the shoulders of the John Lewis's and things like that. That we're built to push through voter suppression. We're built to lift up our neighborhoods. Going back to how I think our philosophy of working with the neighborhoods is that there's something powerful in you that you just don't know.
Yeah.
And I think when God lifts us up and says and designs you for leadership, he sees something in you that you don't see. And we got to keep lifting people up and out of these great spaces. And there's so much powerful resources in Champaign-Urbana to help lift people up and say, all I just need you to do is go fill out this voter ballot. You're built for this. You're built to last, because we're still here. Yeah. Now, I don't want to preach. Get out of the way.
If you haven't filled out your census, we need you to fill out the census.
Fill them out.
Funding to pay for what you voted for. So please, 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 like, reach out. If you haven't, you can go online. You can reach out. So open the door when people come, because I want you to get what you want, but that involves more than just one step.
There was an old poem that said, it kind of said, life for me ain't been no crystal stairs. You know, it had holes in it and this in it. So our ancestors are telling us it had not been easy for us. So Buster, you get up and you put one foot in front of the other, and you do what you need to do for the people who are coming behind you.
So we might have time for like a more touchy-feely question, but I want to make sure we get some facts out. So if you could share simple facts that you have, maybe your talking points, your voting election talking points. And while you're thinking about that, I know around the historical piece, I want to share it's myths around, at least in Illinois, around people who have been incarcerated being able to vote. That is a historical wound that does not, right? So go and get your rights. It is a myth that, so if I've heard that there have been robocalls in other places in the Midwest, they will not, if you show up to vote, they're not gonna pick you up for fines or tickets or none of those things are barriers to your civic rights. And so if people have threatened your insurance, your benefits, your safety, your freedom, that is a myth, and you need to call places like the NAACP, the county clerk's office, and sometimes the police to tell them that people are harassing you, because no one can take those rights away from you. Those are given to you. And so I just want to say that. So give me your voting facts and pointers.
One other fact I wanted to add, Karen, to what you said was that if you're homeless, you can vote. As long as you have an ID, and there are locations in Champaign-Urbana that have agreed to act as your home address, whether it's a shelter that you stay at all the time or not. So even if you're homeless, you may very well be eligible to vote. And I guess what I would encourage people to do is, if you're not sure about any of this, to ask questions. You've got several people on the screen right now who are great sources of information. Sorry, my
Speaking of which,
robocall. I made some PowerPoint slides that just give people a lot of ways to look for good sources of information about elections. And I understand that you'll be posting these along with the videos.
Yeah.
So rather than recite a whole bunch of links, the county clerk's office, the League of Women Voters are your great sources for factual, accurate, nonpartisan information about voting, pretty much any question you might have. Someone at those organizations can help. And yes, you can still vote by mail. As you mentioned, Karen, starting Monday, there are 12 early voting locations throughout the county, and anybody who lives anywhere in the county can vote at any one of those. So if it's more convenient for you to vote somewhere in Champaign, even though you live in Rantoul, that's perfectly fine. So those are all open starting Monday.
Love it. Thank you.
And another factual one would be a reentry. People who are were once incarcerated and they're coming out and they have paid their debt to society and they've paid their dues and all of that. So there are people who have your name on a list as well as with the housing authority. Yes. They can advise you. There are advisors. They're waiting when you get out to make sure that they wrap around you and you have all of the resources that you need. And they will walk with you through jobs, through voting, through all of that to make sure that your reentry back into society is what it should be. You are owed that. You have paid your debts. So reentry programs, Fresh Start, all of those programs, there are people that are volunteering and they will be right there with you. So they're doing a wonderful job of getting that word out as well. And the NAACP has worked with the League of Women Voters for such a long, long time, and the ACLU as well. So we partner with each other. So we know where there is a need. And when there's a need, we support and push that need. So it's not just we're doing this by ourselves. We get with the powers. There's power in numbers. So that's what we have been doing too.
I'm glad you mentioned that because the coalition and the work that all of our organizations do together to support each other really is a tremendous help. And one more fact, for those people who are not yet registered, you can register and vote on the very same day.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
Which is not true in every state, but it is true in Illinois. Just make sure you bring a photo ID and something else that shows your current address. And it can even be on your phone, since so many people don't get mail anymore, but everything on the phone. So yes, so there's really, that stopping point doesn't exist anymore. So anybody who's not registered, you can still do that and vote starting Monday.
Love it. Okay. Anything else? Any other pointers? I also know bring a friend. Don't, if you go and vote by yourself, you are not doing your civic duty. I was listening to someone who said, if on election day, you aren't exhausted because you have done everything you can do to make this election successful, you can't complain. We should all be so exhausted at election night that we should not even be worried about the results because we've put all of our energy into the fight and making sure that the values that we have matter. And I do want to, James, I saw you were getting ready to say something, but I also want to make sure that we talk a little bit in this last few minutes about the kinds of issues that are on the table that people want, because we've talked like more conceptually, and I want to make sure we land the plane with the why. So James, you were going to say something?
Oh, I was going to not just verify what both Ann and Minnie said, but I think the main thing I would leave here is hoping that we inspire people to be curious. That be curious and diligent about going after information. Back to what was stated earlier in the screw tape letters, that's like 31 letters. And the lower demon kept trying, like, well, try this to trip them up. So we see, it's a great read if you love C.S. Lewis, but we see so many carrying through myth after myth after myth after myth. I got to be curious enough to go, is this true? All the stuff that's happening. And so my hope is that curiosity is pervasive for us. The why is, look at the hell we're in today. If we don't get out and go vote and look for people in care, we've been in 4 years of hell, of discord, that I don't trust the people on the other side of the aisle. At least we could talk. At least we tried to work. I love a good debate. If we're trying to wrestle to get to a point of okay, let's make this a better situation for somebody. Okay, let's debate about it. Let's go after it with each other. Now we're at odds.
Yeah.
We're at odds as a culture, we're at odds as a country. I don't know if I could trust you because you're my neighbor. I didn't have a deep feeling just because somebody was a Republican in the past that person was totally against me because of my color. Now I don't know. Mm-hmm. And that's a shame. That's not how we should live. So my why to get out and vote is, again, put people with integrity from the local office all the way up, and then let it ride.
Yeah, I love it. Otherwise, why should people show up? Why is it important? What are some of the issues that people should be paying attention to?
One of the things I think about often, and I tell my grandchildren, is that how do you feel where you are today? How do you feel in this world today? How do you feel represented? Do you feel respected? Do you feel that your concerns, your quality of life, your safety, your representatives, are they representing you? They may not be the same color as you, but are they representing you? So if you don't like where we are today, and you don't like what we are losing, the choices that are being are threatening to be taken away from us. If you don't like not having a job, if you don't like not having health care, if you don't like not having being a small businesses supported, if you don't like what is happening today, you must get out and vote for change. The change that is going to benefit everyone, not just us, because we want equality. We want equality, but we also want to be included in that as well. We want the system to work for us as well. So that is your reason to get out and vote. If you don't like what's going on today, the first step is to get out and vote.
Thank you.
I think on specific issues, certainly the one that seems to be at the top for most of us is healthcare. Mm-hmm. And as I mentioned before, we can find out where our candidates stand on that particular issue. And it's not just national. Whoever we elect to the state Senate and the state House also have big says in what happens to healthcare in Illinois. The same thing is true on a local level. Where is healthcare? And healthcare includes mental health, by the way, in my view. Where is that on the priorities of the Urbana and Champaign City Council? And who in the county board is going to advocate for those kinds of important supports? Because they're also up for election. Absolutely. But more than that, I think about the people who are candidates. Which ones care about us? Which ones listen? Which ones, and again, I don't always have to agree with them, but which ones, by the way they communicate, indicate that they value hearing from me, that they value my opinions, even though they may be different. So I am looking for character. I'm looking for wisdom, perspective, broad-mindedness, as well as specific issues.
Absolutely. I love it. So, right, that whole being willing to collaborate and being open to opinions and being able to sort of engage in a really robust process, to me, is super important. You know, believe it or not, we've spent the hour together. I know. And I want to give you opportunities to do a final pitch, but I want to hijack just 2 minutes. One, James, you said something, and Ann, you talked about the importance of mental health and mental health support. I want to let you know that we're still doing our healing solutions training. So know that one of the things that we're hoping for this community is that everybody is equipped to support each other in the moment of crisis. And so we have psychological first aid coming, and we hope that people will still join us virtually at our training. So I wanted to do that. And then the other thing is, anybody who's been listening to the show, and if you've been nodding and you're like, I like that, I want that, those are values that are important to me. Those are all values on the table. And it's not enough to sort of sit on your couch and say, I like that, but I'm not willing to work for it. And the work for it is with your vote. So if you want to live in neighborhoods where you feel safe and secure and connected and supported, those are actually like policy issues that are at play for that, particularly with diversity. I want to know different neighbors, and I want to feel safe, and I want to feel trusted. Those are policy values. So do you have final words? Because it has been a wonderful hour, and I feel so lucky to have spent this time with you. But what would you like to say in closing? I got you silent.
I was going to let someone else go first, and I see James, he's busting at the seams. Go ahead, James.
I'll just say that HV Neighborhood Transformations, our job, our primary goal is to continue to be a voice for the voiceless, to help our communities show and know their value. And if you want to join us in any of our campaigns, initiatives, et cetera, my job as part of the group, I'm on the board of directors, is to be a bridge builder, to bring people and to come help us uplift these communities. You mentioned trauma. We deal with that. We deal with education, and we're trying to do so many things with just a few people. But when we bring different people in, the eyes light up, and you become part of those communities. That's
Thank you
yes.
so much. Thank you. Thank you.
And with me, it's education. It is truly education, and where we start with our children, our young children who are going through so much right now, and many of them are traumatized. They're hurting. The school district is not at this particular time, and it's been a long time, neglect. They are not educating our children. They are not meeting the needs of our children. They are not placing rigor in early childhood learning, and then support systems where there is smaller classrooms, put in the strongest teachers where there's the greatest needs, expecting children to be able to do what I know they can do. Show that you have faith in them, encourage them, and tell them how important learning is, and show them that you know that they can do this. We need that support, not only at home, but we need it in our schools. So out at the school district level, the presence of police officers in the school, that concerns me, because not only
I gotta get you back, Miss Minnie, to have this larger conversation about school. So I'm putting that on the calendar. So and know that schools are on the ballot. So please see that. And Miss Ann?
I was thinking about all the times when I get discouraged, and I feel like I'm rolling that stone up the hill yet again, and it keeps rolling back down. And I think there's really nothing I can do to make things better. Then I realized that the best antidote to any of those feelings is action.
Yeah.
And action means agency, action means empowerment. So I guess my closing word would be to encourage everyone to take action. And at this time of the year especially, have that action be your vote.
Thank you all so much. Thank you. And I can't wait to have that education conversation. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.